February of 2025, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi made a promise. She told us exactly what we wanted to hear. A list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients was, quote, sitting on my desk. The truth was finally coming. Accountability was finally coming.
It's sitting on my desk to be reviewed.
Then, on July 7th, the story changed. The FBI released a 2-page memo. Suddenly, there was, quote, no incriminating client list, quote, no credible evidence of blackmail. The case was officially closed. Nothing to see here. Now move along. If you feel like you're being gaslit, it's because you are. Your suspicion that this is a cover-up isn't a theory. It's the undeniable truth. Because on the same day the FBI claimed that there was nothing to see, reports confirmed the president himself knew he was in those files. He knew he was at risk of being exposed.
I never had the privilege of going to his island.
They didn't close the case because there wasn't any evidence. They closed it because the evidence led straight to the top. This isn't just a cover-up. It's an implicit admission of guilt. And to understand the sheer panic behind their lies, you have to look past the files that they just buried and shed light on 2 even darker mysteries. First, a riddle. How does a man with no real job build an empire worth more than $500 million? Second, what was that money really for? Because the truth they buried with those files isn't just about protecting powerful men. It's about hiding a powerful weapon of espionage.
Contain the names of people associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Prince Andrew and the former president Bill Clinton have been named.
More are expected to come out.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we present to you the evidence for the case of the Epstein cover-up conspiracy. If you're interested in more content like this, go ahead and drop a like. We would very much appreciate it. Now about that ghost fortune, the $500 million empire, which Epstein somehow built with no job. The answer begins with his main benefactor, the billionaire founder of Victoria's Secret, Les Wexner. Wexner didn't just give Epstein money. He gave him something far more valuable. He gave him the perfect cover and the perfect hunting ground. Epstein used his connection to the world's most famous lingerie brand as a weapon. He posed as a scout, a recruiter for the Victoria's Secret catalog. He was selling a dream to young women and aspiring models. A dream that was a calculated lie. A lie designed to lure them into his trap. This was the supply source for his illicit network. So why would a billionaire like Wexner even allow this? Why grant Epstein full power of attorney over his entire fortune? The kind of power that let Epstein transfer a mansion into his own name for the price of $0. The only answer that makes logical sense is that Wexner wasn't just a client being cheated out of his money. He was a partner in the operation. The money wasn't a payment, it was a budget. And Victoria's Secret wasn't just a brand. It was the perfect secret pipeline for the entire network. This river of corrupt money had to flow somewhere. So the biggest banks in the world opened their vaults, such as JP Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank. Both were fined millions for their role. They knew he was a convicted offender, and yet they kept his accounts open.
It was a mistake to onboard Mr. Epstein in 2013.
But even that isn't the whole picture. The U.S. Treasury's crime division has a secret file on Epstein, a file detailing nearly $1.1 billion in wire transfers.
Treasury's Epstein file details 4,725 wire transfers, adding up to nearly $1.1 billion.
A file the past administration refused to give to Congress. So this wasn't the bank account of a rich predator. It was the budget for a highly sophisticated intelligence operation. And every operation needs a handler. Buckle up, we're about to go deep down the rabbit hole. That handler was Ghislaine Maxwell. She wasn't just Epstein's girlfriend. She was the operational architect of his entire network, the lady of the house. But to understand the operator, you first have to understand her father, Robert Maxwell. A man with two identities. In public, a media mogul and a notorious fraud. In private, a high-level intelligence asset for Mossad, Israel's version of the CIA. He wasn't just some run-of-the-mill spy. When he died mysteriously at sea, his funeral was attended by 6 past and present heads of Mossad. That kind of tribute isn't for a low-level informant. It is befitting of royalty in the world of espionage. His specialty was the art of the honey trap, using embarrassing secrets as a weapon to control powerful men. And Ghislaine didn't just inherit her father's contacts, she inherited his tradecraft. She learned by watching the master at work. After her father's death, Ghislaine was dead broke, but she still had her father's network and skills. This made her an invaluable asset. Now, what if Epstein was already a part of that same world, already an asset for the same intelligence agency? Then that would mean their meeting wasn't a coincidence. It was an arranged alliance. His money would fund the operations. Her network would provide the targets. And the girlfriend story was the perfect front, a cover for a professional operational partnership. Together, they perfected her father's playbook, the honey trap, one of the oldest tools of spycraft. The concept is simple. Use sex and romance to compromise a target. The East German Stasi perfected it with Romeo spies. The Soviet KGB used it to blackmail foreign diplomats. The goal isn't just information, it's leverage, irrefutable, compromising material. But Epstein's network was different, more evil. A standard honey trap might involve an affair, embarrassing but survivable. Epstein's network, however, was built on the abuse of minors. That is not survivable. The leverage it created wasn't just coercive, it was absolute. With the money secure and the playbook established, they just needed one more thing, a shield, protection from the law. And they would get it from a man who would later admit that he was warned to back off. This protection racket started long before 2025. It began with Epstein's first mentor in a large-scale fraud, a man named Steven Hoffenberg. Hoffenberg claimed Epstein was the true architect of his massive Ponzi scheme. He was a key witness to Epstein's criminal beginnings, a man who knew too much. In 2022, just as he was preparing to testify further, Hoffenberg was found dead in his apartment. His body was so badly decomposed, he had to be identified by dental records.
Steven Hoffenberg, one of Jeffrey Epstein's close friends and business associates, is believed to be dead. A full dental evaluation has been ordered to positively identify the body.
It was a clear message to anyone else who might talk, and it explains why Epstein needed a more powerful shield. That official shield arrived in 2008. It was a secret sweetheart deal, one that granted Epstein and his co-conspirators with sweeping immunity. And the man who signed that deal later gave the game away. During his vetting for a cabinet position, U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta allegedly told officials what happened. He was told Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence, and to, quote, leave it alone. This is the closest we have to an official admission, a confirmation that Epstein was protected by unseen forces. This is where all the evidence points to a terrifying theory, that Epstein's network was an intelligence operation for Mossad. The evidence is circumstantial, but powerful. The Maxwell family's deep ties to Israeli intelligence, Epstein's close friendship with former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. But a spy agency needs a way to use its leverage. Many believe that political pressure comes from groups like AIPAC, one of the most powerful lobbying forces in Washington. The theory is simple, brutal, and effective. Mossad could use Epstein's network to gather the secrets, and AIPAC could use the threat of those secrets to influence American politicians. To ensure favorable U.S. policy, it turns blackmail into political currency. Now, of course the Israeli government denies it, but the whole world of espionage is built on plausible deniability. This state-level protection worked for over a decade. But when the story finally broke, a new, more desperate cover-up was needed, one that would happen in plain sight. And that new cover-up arrived in the summer of 2025. It wasn't some quiet legal maneuver. It was a loud, coordinated, attention-grabbing political campaign. Every move was made out of rational self-interest by compromised people desperate to stay in power. The strategy involved 3 clear steps. First, you control the official narrative. The 2-page DOJ memo was the kill shot, a direct order from the top. It told the world and the bureaucracy that the case is dead. Next, you eliminate the institutional threat. Prosecutor Maureen Comey knew the Maxwell case inside and out. She knew where the bodies were buried. So, she was fired. A political purge disguised as a personnel change. Finally, you distract the public's attention. The president filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal. Instantly, the headline changed from government cover-up to Trump fights fake news, a classic and brilliant diversion. Let's be clear about what this is. This is not the FBI conducting an investigation. This is the FBI taking orders from the very same higher-ups whose names are in those files. Their directive was simple. Make sure those files never, ever see the light of day. But you only go to these lengths when you want to hide something truly monumental. Now, what could be so important that it's worth torching the credibility of your own government? That final piece of the puzzle wasn't in Washington. It was steaming towards the Persian Gulf. This is where the story leaves the halls of government and ends up on the battlefront. Remember Trump's America First platform? Remember his promise to end the forever wars? His actions have always told a different story. A story that overwhelmingly favors Israel, like moving the US Embassy to Jerusalem during his first term. And in the summer of 2025, that story went into overdrive. In June, the US provided military support for Israel's Operation Rising Lion by conducting an operation of its own, Operation Midnight Hammer. It was a massive show of force against Iran. Then, as the DOJ memo dropped, and the domestic cover-up went into high gear, a second U.S. carrier strike group was mobilized, steaming full speed ahead towards the Persian Gulf.
And the strike group is likely to go to the eastern Mediterranean to be close to the fighting between Israel and Iran.
And now, for receipts. That new deployment brought American firepower to the region back to the same exact level it was during Operation Rising Lion. A clear pattern. This is no coincidence. So what is this? The ultimate wag the dog? A distraction to hide another military mobilization? Or is it the price of blackmail? A massive policy decision made to appease a foreign power that holds all the cards. In the end, the motive doesn't even matter because the result is always the same. A shady conspiracy and thousands of American lives that are put on the line for a secret that will never be told. Now, it's time for the closing argument. Now, let's review the case. It started with a fortune that made absolutely no sense. A $500 million empire built with no legitimate business. That fortune funded a weaponized honey trap run by the daughter of a known spy master. It was an operation designed to capture the secrets of the world's most powerful people, creating leverage for foreign intelligence agencies and their political allies. It was an operation so vital, so protected, that those who threatened to expose it, like Stephen Hoffenberg and even Epstein himself, wound up dead. This theory explains the desperate, brazen cover-up in Washington, the lies from the FBI, the purging of prosecutors, and it explains why American warships are moving into position in the Persian Gulf. For a second time, it is the price of silence and unquestioning obedience. The official story has fallen apart. It doesn't make any sense. But the theory of a massive, elaborate state-sponsored blackmail operation does. And perhaps even more terrifyingly, it's the only one that connects all the dots. And now, you are the jury, and the verdict is yours to decide. What do you believe happened? Let everyone know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.